Here we go. Going live. What's up, guys? How are you? It's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. Super excited to be here with my old friend, fraternity brother, Jeff Borysiewicz with Corona Cigar Company. What's up, buddy? How are you doing?
How you doing, Ted? I'm going to try and share this real quick on my page here.
You share all you want. I want to share my little story. I remember Jeff came to Sigma Chi, 18-year-old, real skinny dude with an attitude, but a heart of gold. And I loved that about him when he came through Rush. And so I just can't believe it's been that long. I don't even want to date us, but everybody knows how old I am. Sorry. And you have just done amazing things in your life since then. Corona Cigar Company. Jeff is the CEO and founder of that, and that has been become an Orlando institution. When you think of cigars, I would guess most people think of Corona Cigar. So I'm so proud of what you've done. I think it's amazing, and you were such a good community giver. So it's been a while. I've been wanting to get you on the show, but we have a lot to talk about, so I'm going to stop. Tell them a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, Ted, I remember going through Rush at UCF, and you were the grand consul, the president back then of Sigma Chi, and it's great to be on the show. I've watched your shows too, and I'm like,
thanks.
That's the Ted Bogert I know from back when I was young and skinny. And so,
you still look pretty good, brother.
Well, we're trying. So anyway, you were sporting a beard before the rest of us, man.
Oh yeah. Now I've got this white goatee. You've got a long beard though. You're working.
Yeah, that's to cover the fatness of the cheeks as you get on.
Listen, don't give our secrets away. Come on.
Yeah, so it's great. It's great to be on here, and I really like what you're doing because you're sort of like the little mini TED Talks for downtown Orlando, and I think these conversations are great because you have such a wide, diverse group of people that you bring on, and I think that's wonderful. So I'm excited to be on here.
Thank you. So tell us about you. I think people would love to know the story of how you got in, how you created Corona a little bit. Tell us some of the background, because I think it's such an amazing thing that you did in a time where that wasn't necessarily anything here, and you had an idea, a vision, and you really implemented it. So tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well, I started off, I was in the automotive service industry in Pine Hills. We had a repair shop called Bel Air Auto Service. I used to run it with my father and my sister. And in 1996, shortly after I graduated from UCF, took me 8 years to get through UCF, and I did not come out a doctor. So, anyway,
you're not Dr. Borysiewicz?
Right? No, I'm not a doctor. But I enjoyed my college career. So after I wanted to have a business that could be scaled up on a national level. And so I started a mail order cigar business. It's something I had a passion for, and I think that's really critical when you start a business that you have a passion for what you're doing, because then you don't feel so bad when you work 100 hours a week for a few dollars an hour. Matter of fact, for the first 3 years I didn't pay myself at all, so I was working for free. But that's very common though for a lot of entrepreneurs when they start out. Most people don't realize that it takes it takes a lot of money to start a business.
So much sacrifice.
And so if you don't have money, and for me, my business partners always joke about it was American Express, MasterCard, and Discover. So those checks you used to get, those checks you'd get in the mail, and they're like, pay off your other credit card debt with it. So that's how I started Corona Cigar Company.
I love it.
So anyway, I started it out of an extra bedroom in my house in '96, and it was a mail order business. And I had one of these.
Why cigars? Where did that come from? Because that's not my memory of you. Not that it matters, but it's like, where did the cigar idea come from?
You can blame my sister. When she got married, she had her reception over there at the Cheyenne Saloon. They used to rent that place out. What's the place behind? I forgot what it's called. But they used to rent that out for weddings and stuff. And this cousin of mine came down from Chicago. He had a 5-pack of Swisher Sweets. And that was our first cigar. That was the first cigar I smoked. And by the way, it was like, all right. So anyway, that was okay. But then I had a good handmade cigar after that. I was like, wow, this is really nice. And so I had a buddy of mine. We used to smoke cigars, and I started looking into this, into the direct response marketing or mail order business. And so that's how I started it. And from there, we grew into retail. There was a step in between the catalog. We're doing online cigar sales. There's a company in Orlando. This is really weird. Sales and Marketing Technologies was a startup company here in Orlando, and they still are here in Altamont.
Wow.
And that's when internet was just starting, right? And so my accountant was their accountant, and so then he said, "Listen, I got a startup internet company, and I want you to meet this guy Dave, and he wants to put your your whole catalog online and have where you can do the orders online and secure order processing stuff." So I said, "All right, let's do it." So we did that, and man, I was shocked. Like the first day the store went live, we actually got an order. So I'm like, "Well, this is pretty cool."
Which
we
was
started,
a big deal back then. I think people don't realize that back then, when you established an online business, to get an actual order, it was like this crazy miracle thing. How did that happen? And you were so excited because you didn't believe anybody was actually going to buy things from you via the internet.
And this was back, Ted, this was back during the day of AOL and with the modems where
I still have my AOL account, brother.
So does my wife. But you remember when you had that scratchy modem making all those crazy sounds and you have to wait for the thing to hook up? This is what I'm telling you, our website was back when you had that kind of stuff. Yep. So when we got the orders on it, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. So I outgrew my house and then opened a little cigar store in Ocoee. Little tiny one. It was right next to Positano's off of Good Homes Road. It used to be a karate studio. And again, I still didn't have any money. So when I rented that place out, it still had a chain for the heavy bag hanging from the ceiling. And it had these mirrors on the wall from where, you do Taekwondo and all that stuff or whatever in front of the mirrors. So that was our first little store. And then things really started changing as the mail order business just kept growing. And the internet business kept growing. Did you think at the time that did you have a plan? I like to ask CEOs this. Did you actually have a plan in mind that you were 5 years from now, I want to have 1 store or 2 stores. 10 years from now, I want to have 3 stores. Did you have that plan? Were you working a plan, or were you just going along with the flow as the universe was taking you there, or the world? Right when I started, I had a goal. Right when I started. And my goal is that we could sell $100 million a year in cigars. Now, that's a pretty lofty goal.
Nice.
All right. Now, we haven't reached that goal. But
I was going to say, I'm sorry, where's the private plane coming to get me? I don't know.
But do I think we can hit that goal? Yeah, I do. It might take some more time, but I believe we can get there. There's a couple of companies in this industry that do hit those numbers. And so, they can do it. I think we can do it. It's just going to take time. You can do it? Yeah. The difference is, though, when you talk to certain CEOs on a business like that, there's risk involved. A lot of times they'll take on venture capitalists to bring in the capital in order to scale that growth real quick, or some sort of a partnership with another company that brings in a lot of cash. Yeah. And I've never done that. I've always said, like I said, my partners were MasterCard, Visa, and Discover. And so we're still privately held. It's me and my wife and family-owned company, and we got a fantastic staff and guys that have been with us for the ride since the beginning, which I think is amazing. You
have amazing staff, I have to say. So, I'm not, I've never smoked anything. That goes across all planes, guys. So when you message me later, I promise you, I've never smoked anything.
I've never saw Ted smoking weed in college, so I can attest
I've never done I'm a proponent of it, big time. But you know what? I've never smoked anything. But what I love about Corona when I'm there is that you've created an environment where it's definitely about fun, if that's what you want it to be. It's about business, if that's what you want it to be. You basically created this environment where it can be flexible for everybody. I mean, you're a chameleon, basically, as far as your client that comes in there. They could be there in the afternoon when they're relaxing. I see them when in the old days. I used to see them out in the rocking chairs on the main drag there downtown. Or you could have people in full suits, not Ted suits, but real business suits, having a good time, having a scotch or a whiskey, and getting down to business. So you created this really cool environment where all of that can happen in one place.
That's intentional too, because what happens, I mean, you're at the Citrus Club right now. Now, here's what I love about the Citrus Club is the history of that. I really love the history of the Citrus Club. And I'm a real proponent of downtown, and trying to keep things like the Citrus Club and University Club, things that have been around a long time, keep them going, because I think there's a lot of value in that. You need to have places where people can meet up and have a whiskey and have a good conversation. And that's actually one of the things that I always talk about, is that I love the internet. I love this, the mobility we have with Facebook and internet and all this kind of stuff. I've made jokes before that I closed my PPP loan for Corona Cigar in the cab of a tractor at my farm. Now think about that. This is where we're at today, where we can do those kind of things, and that's wonderful. But let me tell you what the drawback is that we have people that have lost the art of conversation, and they're just doing posts on social media, and people get angry at each other, and we used to be able to have conversations with each other, and that's what Corona Cigar or the Citrus Club or places like that, where we can sit down and let's talk, and spend some quality time, and have some face-to-face interaction. Because remember, when you're doing a face-to-face interaction and the lost art of conversation, things don't get misinterpreted as easy.
Correct.
Things don't people get angry easy right now over things, and it's like, man, we can actually have a difference of opinion and still be friends, So that's the idea.
I'm curious, what's your thought? Why is that such a hard concept for people to wrap their heads around? I feel like I'm working with a lot of people in the community and trying to have an open dialogue to show that two adults can maybe have differing opinions and not hate each other or attack each other or belittle each other or all the things that go on. Why do you think it's so difficult for us to have that kind of conversation?
Because people aren't going a little deeper with the person they're talking with, understanding where they're coming from, what their background is, what their life might be like, and looking at it through another person's eyes. And I think that's what happens, is that we're quick to make judgment. We're quick to pigeonhole people into certain categories based on what they look like, where they're from. It's like people have a free mind, and so we need to acknowledge that and talk to each other and not stereotype either, because that happens a lot too. And that's the wonderful thing about cigars, is if you come to like a Corona cigar, just take a look who's out in front. We're going to have people from all walks of life, all colors, all religions, all ages, mostly older, not older, old, but but also we do get some. Let me tell you one of the beautiful things is that when I have a parent that'll say, "Hey man, I brought my kid up to UCF. I want you to meet him. I'm dropping him off, and we're going to have a cigar together." Dad, father, son are going to have a cigar together. And man, the bonding that goes on, if you can have that kind of experience where a lot of kids are like, "Hey dad, see you later. Matter of fact, drop me off at the corner and turn the radio down too before you get there." So if, it's just that little bit of camaraderie that we need, and it goes on. And I'll tell you where it was interesting. The first time I really saw, I remember I saw two lawyers that were, during the day, man, these guys were fighting their case out, right? And then later, they're sitting in that club where you're at the Citrus Club, having cocktails. And like, dude, these guys were just going at each other no more than an hour ago. And now they're sitting there joking and everything else. I'm like, wow, so that was kind of interesting. And I've seen in politics in D.C. too, where you can have some, Democrats and Republicans going head to head, but later chill out and have a cigar. Correct. And actually, the cigar smoke-filled room is actually a benefit, because it keeps people from going off and running into their corners. Right. Because no one's going to get everything they want. So let's get back. Let's talk. Let's get some compromise here and things going. And that's why traditionally, just if you look at the history of cigars, they've always been used for those kind of settings. Actually, like when there's wartime settings and surrendering and things like that. Let's have a cigar. I don't want to kill you while you're signing these papers to surrender anymore. You know what I mean? And you had peace pipes with Indians and stuff. That was the tradition, because they're like, "Hey, sit down, let's have a smoke." Okay, correct. So it slows things down and lets people talk and try to understand each other a little better. But I really appreciate the broad base of customers that we have, because just even me as a business owner, how many people I've met and learned things from, and hear some really amazing stories too. So And I always use the word proximity too. I tell people all the time. One of the things I tell young people this all the time. I say proximity means a lot. If you're hanging around um, a bad area or with a bad group of people, nothing good is ever going to happen there. If you're hanging around a bunch of people that can make you better, good things will happen because you're in that proximity. But if you put yourself in the proximity of danger, bad things will happen. Put your proximity in success and in making yourself better, good things happen. And so I think that's important.
I love that. All right, we have to talk about downtown. You've been an anchor in the spot that I'm pretty sure I can see from the wine room up the Citrus Club right now, looking down on Church Street and that area. And so you've been an anchor down here for a very long time. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about. We just lost Ceviche. We just lost Cella, right, which is right close. The downtown businesses have obviously been challenged, like everyone else has, but you've got another added dimension to that you have you've had it as a discussion point. So tell me about downtown and what you're thinking and feeling.
Here's what is that when Cameron Kuhn was developing the project that we were in, called the Plaza, and that was a big deal. Mayor Buddy Dyer was behind it, the city council and everything else, which was great because it was the revitalization of downtown Orlando. So that was the first project. So in 2007, Cameron Kuhn was a customer. He's the developer of that place and one of the original owners. Would always come to our Sand Lake store, and he's like, Jeff, I'd like you to come take a look. I think you'd be a great anchor tenant for the corner right there. And so we did, and we signed a lease, and we've been there since we opened in 2008. And I had a bullish opinion of downtown because there were so many good things happening. 55 West started having construction done right there on Church Street, and then the View was just completing. So we're talking about while downtown was really going through a transformation, lots of capital investment, a lot of people moving back in. And Ted, you know what the biggest decision for me to do this is I was always worried about security and safety and things like that. But I was sitting downtown just during the day, and I was watching, I think it was on a Saturday or Sunday, and I saw a young woman, pushing her stroller with her infant in it and a couple little toddlers with her. And I thought, you know what? This is good, where people feel safe enough to go do that. We're going to go spend our day Sunday downtown pushing our stroller. It's now becoming a real community. And then shortly after that, you had the Amway Arena came out of the ground. That was built up. And then Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center happened. So let's look at that transformation of the city. And Buddy Dyer had an amazing plan for the city. And it was actually going well, really well. So downtown was being revitalized, businesses were coming in, and things were looking good. And then I don't know what the heck has happened, but all of a sudden in the last couple of years, things just started getting bad again, where people were just, it was like a free-for-all there was a lot of heavy-handed panhandling going on. Now, there's one thing about homelessness. None of us like homelessness, and I do believe that there are a lot of people that are down on their luck and need help, and that can happen to any of us. And so that's a situation, and the city does do things for people that need help, and I 100% support that. But the city has a problem right now, and they don't know what to do because there's a group of I don't even like to call them homeless because they live this lifestyle by choice, but they have a group of about 50 people that they don't want help. They won't go to the shelter. They don't trust anybody. And a lot of them are mentally ill. And those people, they're the ones that are aggressively coming after people like, hey, give me some money. And then if you don't have any money on you, you get scared and you're like, what's going on here? And so they estimate.
Let me ask you really quick, because you just touched on a little bit, but why would that be a problem? I think I know the answer, but explain to people why that has an impact on your business and on the downtown business community as a whole. What
It's real
happened?
simple. So it's real simple, Ted. I wear this Corona cigar shirt pretty much anywhere I go. And a lot of people, but hey, you Jeff from Corona, yeah. And I said, man, I love your store, Jeff. I go to the Sand Lake one. Here's the problem. I go to the Sand Lake one. I used to go downtown. Why'd you stop? Man, every time I came out of the parking garage, I had people, shaking me down for money, and I just didn't like be just sitting there having a cigar, and every 10 minutes somebody's coming up, give me money and all that stuff. And when you go to have a cigar or have a meal, whether it looks Citrus, what's that other restaurant down the road that's closed, basically any restaurant where you have outside seating, nobody wants to sit outside anymore there because
I
you can't
know.
even have a meal. You can't even have a meal anymore because you're going to have 4 or 5 people that are going to cycle through, asking for money. And here's the problem: some of these guys are aggressive, meaning we've had people pick up their drink and throw it on them because they didn't give me money. We got another guy just last week, grabbed a pocket full of change, walks in the door and whips it at one of our staff. Right? Hits a guy in the head with a bunch of quarters, and it's like, dude, this is the kind of nonsense that as a business owner we're having to deal with. We got security there because we want to protect our customers, we want to protect our
Sure.
staff. But listen, Ted, cigar guys are pretty much they're kind of tough guys, right? I'm not saying like tough like gangster guys, but they're not the most fragile of people where if they see somebody they're going to go run the other way.
Right.
Now imagine if you are a mother in a minivan with 2 kids. If a regular guy doesn't want to walk down the street downtown, what do you think the mom with the kids was like? She's not coming.
What's the
End of
answer?
story. She's not coming.
What's the answer?
I don't
Or
know.
what do you think
But all
some
I
of the
know is
solutions
that,
could be?
well, Ted, I'll tell you what the answer is right now, though. Identifying and admitting there's a problem. Number one, no one can ever be cured. You talk to anybody that's, where they talk about drug abuse or they talk about alcoholism, you cannot cure either one of those unless the patient admits he's got a problem. Okay? So here in the city, unless we admit that we got a problem, that's number one, because they're trying to say, oh, we don't have a problem. We do. Okay? And then identify what that problem, because they don't know what to do. We got 50 or 60 guys that don't want to go to the shelter, that don't want to be, they'll even give them a house, Ted. They don't want that. And so something has to be done. Now, listen, I'm a cigar store operator. I know how to run a cigar store, and I know how to run a cigar company.
Right.
If there's got to be some, let me tell you this, Ted, I was in Detroit over the summer. Now, remember, Detroit went through a bigger problem than Orlando did during the recession. These guys were in bad shape. Well, guess what? They've cleaned that city up. It's beautiful. You can go walk downtown Detroit. Nobody's going to bother you. Matter of fact, there's signs out there saying you can't panhandle. And so when you go to, that's why the people are going down in Detroit. You can walk around. You're not going to get shaken down. You're not going to feel like, this guy's going to stab you if you don't give him $5. And so, that's the difference. Other cities are doing it. So
What's
if
the
I was,
disadvantage? Why is
I don't know.
there a pushback? Is there a disadvantage to doing that? Because it sounds like
I don't
that is
know.
it just because it's not enforced? Are they afraid it's not enforceable? I know you're not the expert, but I'd love your opinion on it. Like, what would be the holdback?
Well, people do have rights. You just can't institutionalize somebody because we don't have any mental institutions anymore, which is another thing. If you talk to the mental health care experts, the number one place for mental health care in Orlando is the Orange County Jail.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And that's not the way it's supposed to be.
No, it's not.
And so we have a serious problem that somebody, here's another thing. You go to Louisville, Kentucky, you go to Lexington, Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky's got a problem too. You can't walk downtown Louisville, Kentucky 20 steps without having somebody ask you for money there too. You go to Lexington, Lexington's a different story. You can walk all around downtown and feel safe. And so listen, if I'm running a city, which I have no desire to do, and I commend Mayor Buddy Dyer, I gotta tell you, listen, he's got a tough job. He's got a tough job.
Agree.
I read the posts that people say that, dude, this is hard being a mayor. But it's because you can't please everybody. No matter what you do, you're going to have some people that are pissed at you.
He's done amazing things for our city.
Yeah, he has. But at the same time, here's what I've noticed about politicians. They react to pressure, okay?
Yeah.
So if you get a lot of pressure from people saying, hey, like for example right now, defund the police, you're going to start listening if that's the only voices you hear, unless you have the guts to say, listen, Defunding the police, well, you listen, justice for George, we want 100%. And we support protesters. They have every right to protest 100%. And the city did a wonderful job, as did the residents, of not burning the place down.
I agree.
And Ted, as a retailer downtown, every night I'd go to bed wondering if I had a store.
I thought about you and all of my friends downtown. But what was they really did an amazing job of sharing their voice, and there was nothing else going on, which was lovely.
Absolutely. And so I commend every protester that didn't do anything, violent or breaking in stuff. I commend every law enforcement was there as well. They have to put their own safety and security on the line in case things did blow up, right?
Right.
And they didn't. So overall, I think Orlando did a wonderful job on that. But at the same time, if you have pressure saying defund the police, you need pressure of people like me saying no. You actually need more police and have these guys better trained and where they're part of the community. I think that's the biggest problem too. If these guys were viewed as part of the community and we did some outreach from the police department, from the sheriff's department, maybe profiling some of these officers and ask them, hey, why did you get involved in law enforcement? Right. Somebody might be like, hey, I grew up in Pine Hills. I saw my mom's car got stolen and I didn't like what happened to us. And I felt like I wanted to be that sheriff that did something good. Or, you can hear some good stories of that. Crime affects everybody. And that's the part people don't understand. Crime is, no one likes to be robbed. I don't care what color or where you're from. Nobody likes to walk outside and have their car stolen or come to a traffic light and get carjacked. Nobody wants that. So this is a universal thing. But at the same time, nobody wants to see what happened to George Floyd. So we should be able to have these conversations and say, listen, we don't want that. We condemn that. But at the same time, police officers, we need you because you cannot have an urban business district without feeling secure. And I'll ask people, would you really think a business is going to go invest $1 million or $2 million in a business where he feels that there's no security, that every night the place can get robbed or your staff get robbed? Of course not. He's going to pick a different neighborhood. And so then people that live in that neighborhood are going to be like, oh, there's nothing nice in our neighborhood. Well, it's because you guys didn't want any police force to make sure it was secure, or you didn't support it. And so, but Orlando's really good. I'm telling you that because our customers are urban and these guys that are smoking cigars out front, especially during the protests, they're smoking cigars and they're watching and they're like, this is great, but just as long as nobody tries to throw a rock through the window, and it didn't happen. So
what a blessing. That's awesome.
So hats off to that. But the problem is, Ted, we're like one of the last guys downtown. And the Citrus Club's one of the last original.
We are. Like, I don't know I know there's some businesses left, like Crest is up the street. But I know that everybody has been obviously impacted by COVID. But the panhandling, I would agree with you. Like, if I never would let my daughters come downtown by themselves. There always had to be somebody with them. It's a challenge. There are some people because they tend to be aggressive. That's really where it is. If somebody looks like they need some cash and I have it, I'll give it to them. Even though
Ted, let me explain. When we opened up downtown, there's a fellow that used to sit by the clothing where Stacy's Jewelry is now, where Bay Hill Jewelry is. Across there used to be a barber shop as well. And we would let him come in every morning and give him ice. And he would sit there. He's in the wheelchair, the guy that across the street. He's been there forever.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
All right. So there's a community of people that are homeless that we help out, that they're not problematic. But there's, like I said, for the city knows this. There's probably 500 or 600 people that they take care of, but they've got 50 that don't want help. And these are the ones that are constantly, causing trouble and getting arrested, and then they get released right back on the street and they go to the emergency room and all this other stuff. So it's a bad cycle. So anyway, I don't know what the answer is, but unless it's brought up to, out of sight, out of mind, is kind of the way this is right now. But I'm trying to say, listen, I'm watching all my neighbors close up, right? And I don't want to close Corona Cigar. I want to be there 50 years. Okay.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm a realist and I'm watching what's going on. And it's like, unless we address this problem, you know, here's another thing about Orlando that other cities, because we have a store in Tampa, and you know, I've been pitched
you've got
stores.
some Tampa love going on, by the way. Some
Good.
Facebook people came on from
Yeah,
Tampa.
our Tampa Davidoff store is amazing. So one of the things is that when people from Tampa and Jacksonville and Miami, they're like, you know what Orlando has that those three cities don't have, is that downtown Tampa, downtown Jacksonville, and downtown Miami, come 5 o'clock, when the buildings vacate and all the lawyers and accountants go home, the city's dead. Okay? Orlando has 3 windows of consumerism. You get your daytime crowd, which are your business guys, your bankers and lawyers and accountants, right? After so they're there during the day, and then at 5 o'clock, hey, might go have a cigar. So now you got that window of guys, the before I go home crowd. Then you got the dinner crowd, people that'll come over, go to Crass and go to some of the other restaurants, go to the Bohemian and Grand Bohemian stuff. And then you have the nightclub crowd that kicks in about 12 o'clock and goes to 2 a.m. That's 3 windows, right? Yep. Tampa doesn't have that. Miami doesn't have it. Jacksonville. And every one of those cities were always like, they were jealous. They were like, man, I shouldn't say jealous, but envious. They're like, that's really cool, man. How did Orlando do this? Because if you go to Miami, everybody's going to leave the business district and you got to go to South Beach where the clubs are.
Right.
Okay. Tampa, you got to get out of Tampa and then go to either Ybor City, which gets rocking at night, but during the day, and as a matter of fact, it's a little dodgy around there too. So you got so in Jacksonville, they tried it with the landing right downtown, and it failed as well. So Orlando had this little golden nugget, and still could, but now let's throw COVID into this. COVID is the one that's going to hurt the nightclubs. So when you throw COVID on top of this, because the bars have been closed for the last, that's now 2 months. It's crazy. And that's the other one I feel bad about, because the nightclub crowd.
Me too.
They're a little more resilient to the panhandling, because these guys, a lot of people go to the clubs together like a pack, right? So if you got 4 or 5 people, you feel a little more secure than just one guy, right? But now that the nightclubs and bars are shut down again, which I honestly
think they're going to go to you. They're going to go to whoever else is up and down.
Well, guess what? We're having to serve only to go, because as of yesterday, they changed that the executive order that we're not allowed to serve liquor in the stores, which I think is absolutely.
Why? I didn't hear. I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
That just happened yesterday.
So what was the rule that changed? What?
The executive order is saying that before, if you sold less than 50% alcohol, was your revenue from that, you could still serve it. But now they're saying, unless you have a restaurant license and selling food, you can't serve the alcohol. Now, let me tell you why that's totally unfair. Wow. So what they're basically saying, and this is for the whole state, by the way, what they're saying is that it's okay if I go, it's safe for me to go have a cocktail at Seasons 52 on Sand Lake Road. But if I walk 100 feet over to Corona Cigar and have a cocktail, it's not safe.
It's just fascinating logic, and fascinating could go either way, but I just don't understand the thought process.
And that's the thing is that so now where we've been practicing social distancing, our tables are 6 feet apart, our staff are wearing masks, we got hand sanitizer, we're checking temperatures. We've never had where it's like, sometimes they're showing pictures of bars where people are over, standing room only. We've never done any of that. But yet the whole state, we're taking this blanket approach that, hey, all your bars, no matter what, you're done. And there's no date on when this expires, by the way. And so here's the logic behind that. So while we may have had remember, selling alcohol is a very licensed and regulated industry.
Right.
It costs $350,000 to have the privilege of selling alcohol in Orange County. It's a very expensive license, okay? So imagine that of the bars that we have, you have one that's breaking the rules. Because this one wasn't practicing social distancing, we're gonna make all the other licensed establishments where they can't sell either. That's like me going down I-4, going 200 miles an hour. And because I got a ticket, my license suspended because I was going 200 miles an hour, everybody in Florida loses theirs as well. It's totally unfair.
So frustrating.
Yeah, and
I'm
that's the
sorry,
situation.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so Ted, you wonder why I'm fighting all the time, trying to keep, it's like nonstop because every day in this business climate, if you're not fighting for your business, no one's going to fight for you.
Agreed.
And these things are happening, and so it's like it's crazy, and you know we're going to get through it. Thank goodness we have coronacigar.com because we sell a ton of cigars through mail order, especially now
Right.
that these
Well, I would
since
say
COVID.
you're definitely resilient. You've always been. You're also a planner. I know you have a fantastic, genius kind of business mind, but it doesn't matter. It impacts all of your people, all of your customers, all of
Yeah.
your. It's not just a you personal financial thing. It's a community thing. It's a customer thing, relationship thing. And so I think that some of the far-reaching things that they're doing, they don't realize that it's amazing to me that as a small business that you have to deal with that. And I'm sorry. I did
Well,
not.
it doesn't. Here's the thing, Ted. The same things that we fight for that every business right now. Listen, I never was involved in politics. I don't know. You were the president of the fraternity, so you're kind of a politician from the get-go.
From
But
day one, brother, but I'm
yeah,
never
yeah,
running.
right.
And you
All
probably
right.
know
So,
why. There's a million reasons why I'm not running.
well, you were a good president. So anyway, being in the business that I'm in, and the only another bit of business advice I have for anybody, whatever business you're in, is do keep an eye on politics because um,
Always.
whatever business you're in, things can change kind of quickly. And there's a saying in Washington that's 100% true. You're either going to be at the table or you're on the menu, and you got to
Yep.
make sure you're at the table
I love
because
that.
sometimes a lot of times there's laws and rules and regulations that are passed that really have a negative impact on your business, but the people that wrote it didn't intend it that way. And they
Right.
love to use this word in Washington, unintended consequences. And and I do believe that that's true because what happens is when I started going to Washington, D.C. and doing a lot of what's called grassroots lobbying on behalf of the premium cigar industry, um, I learned that the people that write our laws in America, you have members of Congress in members of the Senate, which tend to be even older because they all started as congressmen, later become senators. So a lot of these people have been in office for 50 years or whatever. But the people that actually write those big bills that come through,
Yeah.
they're 24-year-olds that
Right.
just graduated from college. They're highly educated. They got 4.0 GPAs from very prestigious universities and they're the guys that write it. Now the problem is that because they're highly educated and young, they don't have the industry experience,
Right.
and you can't expect them to have that industry
Nope.
experience. I mean, if I wanted to learn how to make speedboats, I don't build speedboats, right? But I need to talk to somebody that does.
Right.
So you can't expect that staff person to know if he writes something about a rule that it's going to affect how it's going to affect all these other industries. And
Correct.
that's why I'm saying it's very important for no matter what industry you're in, watch what's going on in politics because there are unintended consequences. And so, I that's my piece of advice to anybody in it. Whether you want to be in it or not, you need to watch it.
All right. So if you don't know Corona Cigar in Orlando, I don't know why you wouldn't. How do people find you, reach out to you, buy cigars from you? I want people to know you. Where are your locations? Give us a little business plug real quick.
All right, so there's 4 stores. There's 3 in Orlando. You got the downtown Orlando one on Orange Avenue and Pine Street, right there at the intersection we call Main and Main. All right, so if you're ever driving down Orange Avenue, you see the guys out front smoking cigars on the rocking chairs. That's Corona Cigar. By the way, it is the best place in downtown Orlando, bar none. The best place in downtown Orlando to people watch. I don't care if it's during Halloween
Agreed with
or
that.
when the bars are open. That's the place to hang out and
It's
have a
so
cigar.
good. Agreed.
Right? So that is, and then we have a wonderful store up in Lake Mary Heathrow. That's a great community north of Orlando, and we've been there for I don't know since about 2004 or five. And then we have our mothership on Sand Lake Road in Dr. Phillips. a wonderful community. And that's another thing. Boy, I feel bad for the guys that have these local hotels here on iDrive. These guys are
It's
hurting more
insane,
than,
isn't it?
yeah, hurting more than the bar guys. So we're going to have to, all I can tell you is that people in Orlando, support your local restaurants, because these guys are going through tough time too. And, you know, we want to make sure everybody gets through this. And then if you're in Tampa, we have an amazing store. That was one of our recent ones that we opened about 3 years ago. But it's over off of Boy Scout Boulevard. So right across from the International Mall that's there. We're right next to Texas to Brazil and Del Frisco's and all that. And that's a really, really cool store. It's Davidoff of Geneva.
It's beautiful.
It's amazing.
It's beautiful.
So if you're ever over there,
inside is gorgeous. It's
yeah.
gorgeous.
So thank you. And we do keep dropping the sear piece, but we do crazy amounts of whiskey, single barrel selections.
Nice.
And you know, I'm tasting actually a Horse Soldier right now. Got some
I'm a little sad
here.
you did not deliver that to the Citrus Club so I could sip on it.
Yeah. So you got to go down to the store there. So we but yeah, we do a lot of different Horse Soldiers and all kinds of bourbons and single malt scotches and stuff. And then listen, the backbone right now, especially with COVID, is coronacigar.com, our website, because a lot of people are buying it online. And you know, support your local brick and mortar if you can.
You're just as amazing as you were as that crazy skinny 18-year-old. You're still skinny. Skinny 18-year-old, just lots of really good power, great energy. I love what you've done in our community. I think I've followed it since you started. I love that you're an advocate for the community, not just for your business, but for the community. You put your heart and soul into everything. And I love what you're doing. I think more people should be like that, business owners. So kudos to you for being involved, being an advocate.
Well, Ted, we got to. It takes a village. I'm telling you right now, I learned a long time ago in business, in the automotive business. You ever notice that a car dealership, when you go down like Highway 50 and there's about, I don't know, 20 car dealerships, they do better when they're together. Actually, business is better when you're located next to a bunch of other ones. If you're just one business and there's none around you, so that's why it's important. That's why I always support your local businesses, because one successful business in a shopping center is not nearly as good as if you have 50 down the road, everybody's doing great. And that's what we try to do. So if more people would, you know, anyway, just
you do an amazing job at it. Thank you for coming on the show. I feel like I haven't seen you in 1,000 years. You still look like the same guy from 150 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and put a plug in too for any college kids too. Ted and I met through Sigma Chi fraternity, obviously, and all I'm saying is that I'm an advocate for fraternities too, because they're under attack as well. And
changed my life,
right? And so when we went to college, that's how, you know, you kind of get dumped off at this school with a bunch of kids. There were still 30,000 kids when we were there, right? So you get dumped off at a college and you don't necessarily know anybody, and so the fraternity is a great way to meet people. And Sigma Chi for us was a great group of guys. It was diverse. We were all, you know, it was fun, but not crazy. You know what I mean? And I think any young adult, when they go to college, should consider looking at some of the you know, Rush. I don't know if they do Rush Week. I think they do.
They still do. I mean, it's crazy, because I think that I still see, of course, a million SIGs that come up here. Armando Paez, Tico Perez. I have tons that come up to the club, but even out and about, it just was life-changing, not just from a personal perspective, but from a business opportunity perspective, which is sort of why we're going to college, right? We want to do well in our business. There are so many things that you won't be taught that you will gain from your connections and your relationships at the Greek level or any organization. Just get involved. If you're a kid going to school, get involved in something, because it will change your life. All right, agreed. Jeff Borysiewicz, Corona Cigar Company. That was awesome, man. Thank you. We went so long, but I knew we would, because I needed to catch up with you. All right, you guys got to support him, coronacigar.com. You know where his places are. Thank you guys for sticking in. We had lots of people stay with us. Mwah, we love you guys. Jeff, have a great 4th, my friend. I will talk to you soon. All right, guys. See you guys.